Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty wild. Decentralized science, or DESI for short. It's this idea that anyone, anywhere, could directly fund and own a piece of like cutting-edge biotech research. And we're going to be looking at a platform called the Bio Protocol, Bio for short. It's using blockchain to maybe like revolutionize the whole biotech industry. If you're into the future of medicine, the potential blockchain, or just curious about how scientific discoveries that be made in the coming years, then this deep dive is definitely for you. So, why is something like bio even necessary? Well, traditional biotech research is facing some major obstacles right now. Getting a new treatment from the lab to a patient is like insanely expensive. And even getting the funding for that research can be a nightmare, like navigating some crazy bureaucratic maze. It's slow and it's frustrating. And then if you're a smaller player in biotech, getting access to important intellectual property can feel impossible. So this is where bio comes in. They're proposing this really bold solution they call a bioeconomy. It's a decentralized, community-driven ecosystem, all built on the blockchain.
The whole idea is to empower a global network of people, scientists, patients, investors, anyone who's passionate about advancing biotech, to pool their resources together and identify the most promising projects, and even share ownership of the breakthroughs they help to create. It's not just about funding science, it's about giving everyone a seat at the table. So let's break down how bio actually works. One of the core things they're doing is this concept of BioDAOs. These are like decentralized, self-governing organizations focused on specific areas within biotech. It could be gene editing, cancer research, developing new antibiotics, you name it. Members of a BioDAO. They pool their resources, they make decisions collectively. And they share in both the successes and the setbacks of that research process. It's like a science-focused collective, where everyone has skin in the game. Now the question is, how do you make sure the resources are being used wisely in a system that's this decentralized? Well, bio has this thing called a curation mechanism. Basically, it's a system where community members get to vote on which research projects they think are the most promising. So this helps to make sure that the funding and the expertise are going where they can have the biggest impact, instead of relying on just a handful of big institutions to make those decisions, and then to keep the community engaged and motivated. Bio has this really smart rewards program called BioAC. You can actually earn tokens based on your contributions, whether you're lending your scientific expertise or funding projects, or even just brainstorming ideas. So it's a really cool way to recognize the value that everyone brings. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Bio uses this idea of IP tokenization. So traditionally biotech breakthroughs, like discovering a new drug, it's often locked up as intellectual property within these big companies. But with IP tokenization, these breakthroughs can be turned into digital tokens. Think of these tokens as representing fractional ownership of that intellectual property. So instead of a few companies controlling these potentially life-changing discoveries, more people can invest in them and share in the benefits. It's like democratizing access to scientific advancements. But decentralization doesn't have to mean chaos. Bio has this structured governance system in place, and the bio token itself plays a key role here. It's not just a reward, it's your voice in how this whole bioeconomy evolves. Token holders can support specific BioDAOs. They can vote on key decisions regarding the platform, and it can even influence how biotokens are distributed. It's a way to ensure transparency and keep the power with the community. Now, of course, Bio is all about fostering real innovation in biotech. And to do that, they created the Bio Launchpad. It's a platform designed specifically to help new biotech projects get off the ground. Kind of like an incubator where ideas can turn into real solutions. And for people who want to start their own BioDAOs, Bio offers an incubator program that gives them a framework and some guidance to help them thrive. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the challenges facing traditional biotech to Bio's solutions. But here's why all this matters. Bio is trying to fundamentally change how we approach scientific research. It's about breaking down barriers and empowering individuals, letting them be active participants in scientific progress. It's a vision of a future where life-saving discoveries are made faster and are accessible to more people. So what do you think so far? Is BIO a step towards a more democratic and accessible scientific future? Or are there some potential pitfalls we haven't considered yet? Let's keep exploring and find out.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, how could this model of decentralized science, how could it be used in other fields beyond just biotech? Like, imagine communities driving progress in like renewable energy research or exploring space, or even pushing the boundaries of physics, all outside of those traditional institutions. It's kind of mind-blowing to think about democratizing knowledge to that level.
It really is.
Yeah.
But for now, let's bring it back to Bio and how this platform is actually being used.
Yeah.
Are there any specific BioDAOs or projects that you find particularly interesting or inspiring?
Oh, there are quite a few. One that comes to mind is BioDAO. They're focused on longevity research, so they're funding studies that are looking into extending lifespan and health span, so not just living longer, but living healthier for longer.
Wow.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is that they're not just passively waiting for breakthroughs, they're actively shaping their research agenda. In a field that's traditionally been dominated by, those big institutions and companies.
It's like a community-driven quest for the fountain of youth,
Yeah.
but like grounded in real science. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Are there any other examples of BioDAOs that are kind of pushing the boundaries like that?
Yeah, definitely. Another one I've been following is LabDAO. They're trying to build a decentralized network of laboratories and research tools. The goal is to make scientific infrastructure more accessible and affordable for researchers all over the world, especially those who maybe don't have access to traditional lab facilities, like those in developing countries or people working on independent projects. It's essentially democratizing the tools of science itself.
That's incredible. That could really open up so many possibilities for researchers who might otherwise be limited by, resources or location. But let's be real for a second. Even with all this amazing potential, what kind of challenges do you think bio might face going forward? Are there any like hurdles or obstacles that could hinder their progress?
Yeah, you're right. It's important to remember that Decia is still pretty new, uncharted territory. I think one of the biggest challenges is figuring out the whole regulatory landscape. The legal and ethical frameworks around things like intellectual property ownership, then data privacy clinical trials. Those are still being developed,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to these decentralized platforms.
Yeah, that sounds tricky.
It is. It's a bit of a minefield, and bio is going to have to be really careful to make sure they're operating within the existing regulations, but also advocating for clear supportive guidelines that encourage innovation.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Are there any other potential roadblocks you see bio might encounter?
I think building trust and credibility within the scientific community is going to be key. There's definitely a lot of excitement about the potential of DESI, but there's also a fair bit of skepticism. Some researchers who are used to those traditional models of funding and peer review might be hesitant to embrace this new way of doing things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it'll take time to shift those mindsets and prove that decentralized science can produce, you know, really rigorous, high-quality research.
Right.
It's like bio is pioneering a new path, and it might take a while to convince everyone to follow.
That's a great way to put it. Breaking new ground always comes with excitement and challenges. Speaking of breaking new ground, where does bio see itself fitting into the bigger picture of scientific research and development in the long term? What's their vision for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, their ultimate goal is to create this global, decentralized research ecosystem where anyone can contribute to scientific progress regardless of their background or location. They want to see a world where the pace of innovation is dramatically accelerated and where the benefits of scientific discoveries are more equitably distributed.
It's an ambitious goal.
Yeah.
What are they doing to try to make that vision a reality?
Well, they're constantly expanding the platform's capabilities, developing new tools and features to empower BioDAOs, streamline the funding process, and facilitate collaboration. They're also working with regulators and policymakers, trying to shape a supportive environment for DESI as a whole. It's a multi-pronged approach, building the technology, nurturing the community, and advocating for regulation that fosters innovation.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about creating a whole ecosystem where DESI can actually thrive.
Right.
But here's the million-dollar question. Is BioIO truly a revolutionary force in the world of science? Or is this just another hyped-up trend that will eventually fade away? What do you think?
That's the question everyone's asking, right? And honestly, only time will tell. It's still early days for DESI, but the potential is definitely there. Whether bio becomes the dominant player, who knows? But the movement they're a part of, it's definitely shaking things up, challenging the status quo. It's like they've thrown a stone into the pond of scientific research, and the ripples are spreading.
Yeah, and those ripples are creating waves of change. It's exciting to think about how this might change the power dynamics of who gets to participate in scientific discovery and who benefits from it. But let's dive into one more crucial aspect we haven't fully explored yet, the bio token itself. We talked about its role in governance and rewards, but I'm curious about its overall value proposition. What makes the bio token actually worth holding on to?
That's a great question, and it's a key question for anyone who's thinking about participating in the bio ecosystem. I'd say the value of the bio token is fundamentally tied to the success of the platform itself. As more BioDAOs are launched, as more research projects get funded, and as more scientific breakthroughs emerge, the demand for the bio token is likely to increase.
So it's like investing in the future of decentralized biotech as a whole.
You could put it that way. Holding bio tokens gives you a stake in the growth and success of the entire platform. Plus, it gives you access to some exclusive benefits, like early access to funding rounds for promising projects,
Hmm.
and the ability to participate in those governance decisions that shape the platform's direction. It's like having a front row seat to the Desai revolution, and you get to help steer its course. And as the bio ecosystem matures, we can expect to see even more innovative uses for the bio token emerge.
It all sounds pretty incredible. But we have to be realistic too. Investing in any cryptocurrency,
Right.
especially one that's connected to a new and evolving field like DeSci, it comes with inherent risks. What are some potential downsides or challenges that investors should be aware of?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's important to approach any investment with caution and understand the risks. I think one of the biggest risks with bio, like with any cryptocurrency, is the market volatility. The value of the bio token, it could fluctuate significantly, just like we see with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. The crypto market is known for its ups and downs. And things like regulatory changes, technological advancements, even just general market sentiment, all of that can impact token prices.
So it's not for the faint of heart, or those looking to get rich quick. Are there any other potential risks investors should consider?
Another risk is just the inherent uncertainty surrounding the success of DeSi as a whole. While Bio and other platforms are showing a lot of promise, there's no guarantee they'll be able to overcome all the challenges we talked about and achieve widespread adoption. It's a relatively new and untested model, and there's always the possibility it might not live up to its full potential.
It's like any investment you know. You got to do your research, understand the risks, and only invest what you can afford to lose. This is especially true in the world of cryptocurrencies, which can be super fast-paced and unpredictable.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the bio protocol. It's clear that bio is at the forefront of a movement that could really revolutionize how we approach scientific research and development.
I agree. It's been really interesting exploring all these ideas with you. Bio is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and I'm really curious to see what the future holds for them and for the whole Desai movement.
Yeah, me too. But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to touch on one more critical element that we haven't really discussed yet. IP tokenization. It sounds incredibly futuristic, but I'll be honest, I'm still a little fuzzy on how it actually works in practice.
It is a fascinating concept. It could completely change how we value and share scientific discoveries. Basically, IP tokenization involves taking those intellectual property rights, things like patents or like groundbreaking research findings, and turning them into digital tokens that can be traded or invested in.
So it's like instead of a patent just sitting there like a static document, it becomes this dynamic asset that can be bought and sold or even broken down into smaller pieces.
Exactly, and that opens up a ton of possibilities for funding research, encouraging innovation, and ensuring that the benefits of those discoveries reach a wider audience.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, but a real-world example would be helpful. Let's say a BioDAO funds research that leads to a breakthrough treatment for Alzheimer's disease. How would IP tokenization work in that kind of scenario?
So once that treatment is patented, the BioDAO could choose to tokenize that patent. They would create a limited number of digital tokens, each one representing a share of ownership in that intellectual property.
So instead of the BioDAO being like the sole owner, they could distribute these tokens to their members, the researchers, or even sell them to investors.
Exactly, and this allows for a much more equitable distribution of the potential financial rewards, which can be a huge incentive for early investors and those who supported the research right from the start.
And what about big pharmaceutical companies that might want to license or develop the treatment? How would they interact with this tokenized IP?
They could purchase the necessary tokens from the BioDAO or from other token holders on a secondary market. This would give them the rights to commercialize the treatment.
It's like a whole new marketplace for scientific innovation is emerging one where intellectual property itself becomes a tradable asset.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this increased liquidity and accessibility could lead to a more efficient allocation of resources and a much faster development of those life-changing therapies we're all hoping for.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff. But zooming out a bit, what kind of impact could this have on the traditional pharmaceutical industry and their well-established ways of developing and bringing drugs to market?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And honestly, I think we're only just beginning to see how disruptive IP tokenization could be to the pharmaceutical industry.
Do you really think it could shake things up that much?
It has the potential to be a total game changer. By opening up these new avenues for funding, promoting collaboration, and streamlining the development process, IP tokenization could seriously challenge the current model of drug development, which is often slow, incredibly expensive, and, let's be honest, not always that effective.
It's like someone just introduced a whole new rule book, and the players are still trying to figure out how to play the game.
Exactly. It'll be fascinating to see how the pharmaceutical industry adapts to these emerging models of innovation and how they approach intellectual property ownership in the future.
This deep dive into the bio protocol has been really eye-opening. I feel like we've gone from understanding the limitations of traditional biotech to exploring the solutions bio is proposing and how this technology could transform not just scientific research, but industries like pharmaceuticals and maybe even beyond.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you. Bio is definitely pushing the boundaries, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for them and for the entire DeSci movement.
I agree. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Decentralized science is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to completely reshape the scientific landscape in some really profound ways. As we've seen with bio, the power of blockchain technology combined with the passion and creativity of a global community can open up some incredible new possibilities for funding collaboration and innovation. So as you continue to learn about and explore, just have to ask yourself, what role will you play in shaping this exciting future? Because the future of science is being written right now, and we each have the opportunity to be a part of that story. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of bio and decentralized science.